Yo, Natsu here. Back again for part 10 of What If Deku Could Learn. If you like to actually watch the background of my videos, you will see that it actually changed this time. This is basically just because I don't actually want to change it right now. And it's basically my music app. Basically, using this, I can actually download a music free of charge, like literally zero cash. And okay, yeah, you can have an ad when you try to download, but you can literally just escape the ad, the app, come back in, and the download still launch. You just don't have to watch the ad. And basically, after that, you can use the app even outside of, even when you don't have Wi-Fi or whatever, and basically watch, or I should say listen, to be more precise, to everything you actually put out, downloaded. So, yeah, if you want the name, MP3 downloader. Easy as that. Basically, right now I'm just listening to the light novel of I'm a Spider, so what? And yeah, I really love this. Anyway, for the start of this video, for the start of this What If, I should say. Video was actually the good choice. I'm going to start by explaining what happened to Deku, his skills, and what he learned during the 5 years where he stayed on Earth, all in his world. Basically, because I didn't actually explain anything about that. I basically just said about the time skip and that he unlocked his, dimension world that he has, where he puts the apples, let the tree grow for a few years, and then basically just went and brought some fairy in it. Another thing I forgot to say is that he also tried to, unleash Nan, magic, and nanomachines in there to basically see if it will start producing stuff. He also brought a few, other things. First, his world, when he actually created it, he could actually make, in that world, grass, earth, trees, water, and other stuff like that already exist. Basically, they are created at the same time. His world right now could be counted as, the surface area itself is at around let's try this again, 160 million kilometer of surface area, which is huge. But basically, the more magic he will have, the bigger it will get. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. Because right now, it can be considered small compared to what it will be later on. So, right now, I'm going to start with what he actually acquired, or I should say upgraded, in his skill list. First is his Parallel Mind. It actually, over the years, since by this point it takes an entire year for a single level to be made, with literally just taking a single year, because the proficiency also increases every time he adds another mind, and by this point it just basically catched up, thanks to also having the mind acceleration thing, which is also increased. But first, now Deku actually has. He had 9, add the 5 years, plus the multiple months that actually went. Where he actually went to the the world of magic, which 1 month every 4 months. So 5 years multiplied by 3 equals 15. So basically, now he has a total of 15 parallel minds, and around halfway through to getting another one. Sorry. And basically, for his thought acceleration, it evolved by now, and is actually at the next stage at level 5. So he can drag a single second into becoming 50 seconds. Which is the reason why his parallel mind is actually able to only have a 1 year distance always, because this also keeps increasing, since each of his parallel minds actually have it active at all time. Basically, him assigning every single parallel mind undoing a single thing. Example 1 that keeps studying, while another, right now it's just an example because he doesn't do that 24/7. But yeah, basically there's one who always manages his own mini world, basically trying to make different climates after he brought different things like water from different rivers, insects, animals. Basically with his strength now, he can literally just go in the 3 worlds he's already used to for a day, grab some stuff and send them there. So yeah, basically he's doing that. Up to now, he didn't actually bring any human or beastmen from other world except the fairies. So right now, it basically acts as their own little world, with their own zone basically being a big circle of 12 trees, basically where they can live in the middle of it without actually having any fear of being attacked by the trees, actually making their own protection around the area. And basically that makes a bigger zone for them that's actually a few kilometers wide. Like for the just for the length it has between the 2 sides of the circle, basically it's a few kilometers wide, basically giving them a huge amount of free range and actually a lot more things that they can do instead of only having like a few hundred meters. And it was not supposed to rain, but it's starting to drop. Anyway, basically one of his minds is always controlling that, with now that little world actually going at around 50 times speed from the normal world, simply from the experiments that are happening. Basically one mind experimenting with the climates and stuff in different zones, a mind that is actually looking at everything that changes over time. Basically it's a 50 time acceleration from the world, just to basically keep up with, the speed of the mind. Though at one point Deku will augment it far beyond that, so that multiple years can pass in single days. So that at one point he can literally just go train there for, years at a time, without actually bothering, exactly like for the other worlds. Or actually he can go to one of those other worlds being there, going into his little world, take that with a grain of salt, because like I said, 160 million kilometers of surface area. Oh, 160 square of. So yeah, basically, it's a large field that does have an actual curvature like each real planet, but over time, as it expands, basically the entire world expands as well over time. But basically, with him keeping stuff like specific continents in same places. So right now, what he's actually doing when increasing his magic is having one of his minds specifically controlling it so that it moves and basically creates continents, islands, and stuff like that. That those don't actually grow, so that it doesn't change too much. And basically, over time, people will just think that, oh, they found something new, they found something new, they found something new. Instead of basically understanding that it just grows over time for a bit, until they actually do the entire planet, and then see that, oh shit, it just grows over time. Okay, fine. But yeah, that's for 2 of those parallel minds, and the rest are basically each doing their own thing. Another thing that he got for his skills is actually that now, well, his flight skill, which he did use most of the time when flying, since it just activates by itself, reached the maxed level. Basically, this skill is something that is extremely gruesome to grow, since normally first level skills or low grade skills all have around the same amount of what's it called? I said it not long ago. Oh, whatever. The experience basically with skills. This one needs about 10 times more just for the first level, and then it increases, well, 10 times more that the usual skill also does. So basically, he needs a lot more training using it just to increase it normally. And with a level cap of 10, which then become super speed flight, which actually reached level 3 on that one. But yeah, basically right now, without using Nan magic or anything else, and just using his wings normally, he can use his wings and the super speed fly skill to go pretty freaking fast. About 1/3 of the speed he can go when using magic and Nen together. So if he uses that as well as those two, yeah, you can pretty much guess that he's going a lot faster. And it's literally raining right now, but so little rain that it's not actually bothering me. Anyway, that's for the skills. Now, what he actually tried to learn in his own world over time, in My Hero Academia, was actually, well, more quirks, because he realized after a while that, yeah, no, he kind of forgot to try and learn about those for a while. Yeah, he has a few, but most of the ones he has were actually learned just from him toying around in, well, preschool. Example, the quirk that allows him to remove his eyes. But yeah, basically, so during the 5 years, this was one of the biggest thing he was trying to learn. He also realized another thing. He had never actually used Bakugo's quirk more after he left for the first time. With Bakugo increasing his own, but Deku never actually doing it. So he basically started doing that, as well as a few other things, and actually started to specifically go around trying to learn about quirks to get more and more and more. His lists of quirks basically passed from like under 20 to nearly 40, which were mostly stuff about heroes, which he could see how it might work and then try to copy that. For example, he tried to copy All Might's quirk, which he basically just thought was a super strength and air pressure quirk or something like that, as well as something that allows him to do, well, one other thing. But that's going to be a bit of a secret for now. Well, you're going to learn about it later in the part, so doesn't really matter. Basically, Deku learned a massive amount of quirks simply because he wanted to learn more. And at the same time, he actually tried to think about mixing powers this time. Though it wasn't from him, it was actually Bakugo who told him, hey, why don't you try to do this? And Deku basically just thought to himself, yeah, I could try. So, yeah. Deku started to try and mix different powers together. Just like he was for a while trying to mix magic and Nen, which was a hard fight for him to do. But basically the first thing he tried to add together was actually making something that allows Deku to mix Bakugo's quirk with different things. And the first thing he was able to do was basically explosions of water, basically making water bombs in his hand that he can throw and basically make them explode like little bombs. He also made it trying to use ice magic as well, which didn't have the result of an ice ball exploding into fire, which he had imagined, but actually an explosion that creates massive amount of ice where it exploded. Which scared Bakugo like hell for a moment. So, they basically just then kept training, Bakugo becoming stronger with his own quirk, and Deku basically learning more and more quirks and mixing powers together, seeing if it could work. And he discovered that using magic to increase quirks actually works a hell of a lot. As well, just like Nen actually does. And there's a party right there. Oh god. Anyway. So, basically after a while, we get to where we should be, which is about the day before All Might tries to get the sludge villain, and the day Deku gets attacked. So, that day is basically a day where Deku decided to actually try to go to the magic world for the last time, to basically just, well, complete one more quest. Basically, what he was doing was going at an interval of 1 month, specifically to try and make the wall, but also taking like 1 or 2 days to basically get quests to try and get more armors for his, well, pendant. So basically, over time, they just saw his growth basically being massive, his hair having turned white, and everything else. And basically just kind of kept seeing him growing at like days of intervals. So basically Deku being really, really strong, basically. I'm in the park right now, and there's a fucking motorbike that just passed. Well, it's less interesting than yesterday when a fucking police car passed by in the fucking park, but anyway. Also, sorry about my swearing. Oh yeah, a good news I got today. An annoying teacher we had for 2 weeks that basically slowed us down like hell because we should already be way further ahead in class, finally got thrown out. So we're finally going to be able to advance in our fucking class. Woohoo! Going back to Deku, basically over time he increased the amount of, well, armors he had to basically filling the entire pendant. Which, one specific thing about the pendant is that Deku actually tried to learn of a way to modify it a bit, which actually allowed him to modify it so that every armor he puts in it, that they be big enough or too small, can all be transformed to actually fit him perfectly. And one of the things he had to do that is actually link that to his own stomach so that, oh yeah, if there's not enough material, he can use magic to he can basically transform the things in his stomach into either magic or Nen to basically forcefully create the material needed to change the armor. And since it basically becomes for the size he needs, well, except when he grows more, he doesn't need to change it anymore. So temporarily they all become perfectly sized for him. And since the pendant doesn't work with mass amounts, and just by specifically amounts of sets it has in it, he has a lot of them, because he also increased the size over time of that, once again because of him meddling with it. And basically by now he can actually have like 200 helmets, 200 right gauntlet, 200 left gauntlets, 200 left boot, 200 right boot, 200 plastrons, 200 pants, and basically you get the point. With also two other not two, but basically with places for accessories like rings for left hand, rings for right hand, belts, necklaces, earrings for right hand, earrings for left ears. Basically, he modified it to basically be able to do that because, yeah, in the world with magic, artifacts can come by in many forms. And since earrings, necklaces, rings can have many, well, he specifically modified it to have this amount. Though 200 was the limit that he was able to do while still modifying it. So, yeah. Basically, after that day, he said that he won't be back for, well, a while. Basically thinking that, yeah, no, except for trying some of the other worlds, he might not go back there for a long time, since he finally was able to fill his pendant with as many armors as he could. One other thing he modified from the necklace is actually that he is now able to, if he is actually touching someone, to make the armors that he has in it actually be put on whoever he is in contact with. Basically, the armor also modifying for their form temporarily until Deku takes it back, so that if someone is in trouble, let's say Ida is about to get killed by Stain, if Deku is able to touch him, he can put an armor that can resist paralysis and increase speed, so that Ida can run the fuck away. Sorry, that's basically the only thing I had in mind for an example right now. So yeah. Okay, so now let's go to the day where they talk about, well, the teacher talks about going to, well, UA. First off, nobody laughs at Deku, and second off, Bakugo doesn't laugh at anyone because, well, Deku basically turned him into a good boy. Because Bakugo never got the same fame as he had when he was young, because Deku basically had a quirk that allowed him to become, well, overpowered as all hell, making everyone else around them see them both as good people who could get good heroes, well, that could become good heroes, but never completely on Bakugo, and most of the time on Deku, because he could show them stuff that was new nearly every day. Not truly every day, because he took a lot more time to learn before then, but you still get what I mean. So, yeah. Basically, after all that is said, Deku decides to actually go back to his house by a shortcut. So basically going through to the underpass where the sludge villain tries to attack him. Deku sees it coming and basically just freezes the villain right there by making an ice bomb, which is a lot faster for him to create than an actual ice spell. So, yeah. Basically freezing the villain in its track, All Might arriving, seeing the sludge villain there, and Deku just kind of looking at it a bit like, what do I do with this now? Basically, before All Might can say anything, Deku actually just sends it to the his own little pocket world, which All Might just see it as Deku making the guy disappear, and All Might asking him what he just did, with Deku just saying that he, well, basically freaking out first that it's All Might, and then realize that, oh shit, someone saw me do that. And basically starts to try and explain that his quirk actually allows him to learn about stuff, and that he basically created a small, well, zone where he can store stuff, and while the villain was frozen, he basically decided to put it there until he could find someone to give it to. Basically explaining it way too fast for All Might, because every parallel mind except the two that were, well, no, even the two that were controlling the parallel world, basically all started to act at once, and Deku using his speed, basically having his body move at the max amount of speed and all of the mind thinking, like 50 seconds in 1 second. Basically, Deku was talking so fast that all Might could hear was Quirk, Storage, Villain, Hero. And basically told Deku to calm down and explain calmly. Deku basically slowing down, taking off all of the parallel minds, basically shutting down the skill temporarily, as well as his accelerated mind. Accelerated thought? No. I don't remember which one it was, but basically the second level of the skill. So, yeah, basically, he explained it again, this time slower, and basically asked All Might if he should take it out right now, with All Might actually telling him that it would be a good idea. Basically, Deku reactivating the parallel minds, making the one that's specifically in control of the dimension take it out, basically nearly unfrozen, because, well, 50 times faster, and it took almost 2 or 3 minutes to actually talk with All Might. So yeah, a few hours actually happened. Well, there. Basically, Deku asked if he should froze it again. Basically, the villain trying to kind of move. Basically, still slowed down because of how cold it is. And All Might basically taking out a bottle and basically saying it's going to be fine. Well, basically taking out some bottles to basically put the villain in. When that was over, All Might basically told Deku that his quirk is impressive. Ice and the ability to make that. So he can learn other quirks. Is that it? Deku saying yes, and that he can actually accelerate. Well, not accelerate, but basically says that his body is stronger, faster than most people as well. And All Might actually looks at Deku and just thinks that he could be a good choice for One for All. Deku then asking All Might, "Are you okay? I smell blood on you." With All Might just telling him that he's fine, and Deku asking if he's truly sure. All Might looking around and basically bringing Deku's a bit, well, more hidden, and shows an injury on his chest, which isn't that big actually. He basically explains to Deku that he actually got into a fight a few years ago and that he was injured by that villain but he was still able to win. A part of his respiratory system was actually destroyed, but not enough for him to actually be in too much of a critical condition, though he is limited in what he can do in a day. Basically telling Deku that the reason why he isn't around all the time is because he has a limit of it. Well, basically saying that he almost can only do work half of the day, with the rest where he needs to rest. With Deku just kind of thinking that he could try healing magic, since he did try to dabble a bit in it, but he's nowhere near good enough. Then he thinks of magic potions, and basically takes one out of storage, and tells All Might to try and drink this. Basically making the image of, "Eat this." But basically Deku saying, "Drink this." All Might saying that it's not good for kids to have drugs, with Deku saying it's not drugs, it's actually something that he drinks from time to time. and then says that, well, he already has a healing quirk that he copied, but this can help with healing stuff. All Might tries it, and nearly nothing happens. Though he does say that he feels a bit more energetic now. Basically telling Deku that, well, he needs to go. Deku telling him sorry he couldn't help, and basically just then says to All Might, "Is it okay if I run home?" All Might asking him what he means, with Deku then saying that, well, he needs to control himself because if not, he gets stopped by either heroes or policemen because they think he's using his quirk. All Might basically writes him a small paper saying that, look, just for today, do it because you still tried to help me, but don't do it again. Basically Deku saying thank you and leaving. All Might actually trying to follow Deku for a while, saying that he goes really fast. All Might trying to be stealthy a bit and basically floating from building to building, with Deku actually noticing him. Also, yes, I said float. All Might is not the 8th user of One For All in this. He is the 9th user of One For All. For around 2 years, someone else actually had it, instead of the smokescreen guy as the 4th user. And that person was able to boost the quirk a bit more during those 2 years before passing it off to the next person. And basically, then you just continue with the normal happenings of One For All, minus one thing, actually. But that's going to be said later. Basically, All Might having a bit less time, well, as much time with the quirk, but actually having the quirk being more increased, was able to unlock his teacher's quirk, Float, which he isn't able to actually talk with any of the vestiges, but he is still able to use Float, and since he knew Nana Shikimura quite well, he also knew how her quirk works to an insane degree, basically allowing him to learn how to use it pretty fast. And now it's basically a sample of his quirk, making people think that he actually has an air control type quirk. Deku had noticed All Might, who was following him, with All Might saying that Deku is literally way too fast, until Deku basically just ducked into an alley, All Might trying to see where he went, not seeing him, until Deku basically was behind him using his wings and asked All Might why he's following him. All Might literally is jumping away in fear a bit because of the surprise, dropping the bottle. All Might just said to Deku that, well, he wanted to understand what he meant by too fast, and now he knows what he means. In fact, I saw you have showed a paper to 2 different heroes, which were quite surprised. All Might then asked why they were letting him go so easily, though, with Deku just saying, well, he actually told them to look in the air exactly where All Might was, without making it obvious. Basically making All Might understand that Deku knew he was there from the very start. All Might just asking him how good he is at detecting other people, and Deku just said, way too good. Basically then saying that in a range of about 100 meters, he know of everything that is around. Basically meaning that All Might was basically just in range. Then Deku basically coming down, a few people actually seeing a kid with wings and All Might talking, Basically until someone heard an explosion. Deku and All Might looked in that direction and basically started going towards it fast. With All Might finally actually starting to lose his strength. Basically, he was in hero mode the entire morning, so now he's actually starting to run out. Basically, Deku saw it. All Might went down before Deku. Deku just kind of kept with him, though he changed his hair color to basically hide himself for if people came closer, and actually saw All Might's skinny form. Deku asked if All Might was okay, with All Might saying that he's fine, but he feels weird now. Deku basically helping him go towards the other place, where they can find Bakugo basically trapped by the sludge villain. All Might says they need help, with Deku just kind of saying that it won't be too much of a problem. All Might seeing him start to go, trying to stop him until Deku basically just zaps. Well, I say zap, but he nearly just instantly disappears and reappears in front of the sludge villain. The hero seeing Deku just appear there and one about to tell Deku to leave because he actually looks a bit younger than what he should be because of him aging slower, which Bakugo had realized that he looked a bit younger but just thought that it's because of his power, but didn't know how much of an extent it would get later. Bakugo saw him and basically just tried to throw his hand towards Deku. Deku basically grabbed it, the sludge villain trying to stop that. And suddenly just everyone felt a blast of air with the sludge villain nearly disappearing. Well, from over Bakugo. Basically Deku made a bubble coming out of Bakugo's body, separating the sludge villain, throwing Bakugo backward. Bakugo just getting back on his feet, looking at the sludge villain going back to try and catch Deku, not recognizing him because of the hair difference as well as Deku changing a bit of his height. Basically he didn't actually change his height too much, just a bit smaller. Bakugo still recognized Deku though, but Bakugo basically just kind of stepped out of the way. So now that he wasn't there, Deku basically pushed his hand forward and froze the villain once again. Basically that time trying to freeze him a lot better. And basically just kind of having a few heroes go towards Bakugo, saying to him that he was brave and was actually pretty good for being able to do that much. And then looking at Deku trying to think of, punishing him. With Deku basically just kind of looking at All Might, not seeing him until All Might basically arrives from behind and says, "Good job, young man. You were able to stop this villain before I arrived, saving this young one as well." Basically everyone seeing All Might basically lost all ideas of punishing Deku because All Might literally congratulated him. Basically making everyone just feel bad for thinking of actually scolding Deku. Bakugo seeing All Might, but then seeing the face of some of the heroes and basically nearly laughing because they look stupid right there. Like, fuck, what do we do now? All Might then says, "Young boy, can you come with me so that we can have talk?" And Deku basically just accepting it. All Might acting as if he didn't know Deku, asking if he can fly with that wind quirk. Deku basically understanding what All Might means, and basically All Might just flying up, well, floating up, with Deku just kind of following him. Basically making his wings, but using transformation to make them invisible. So basically just flying with All Might, with a few people just kind of cheering because, well, All Might literally wants to congratulate the kid by himself. And that, well, since All Might got there before, well, at the same time that some people were starting to scold him, a lot of people just thought that he wanted to take Deku somewhere else before congratulating him, so that the people who were about to scold him can actually feel bad. And because of how many people were thinking that, even some heroes, those heroes basically just thought that, I think I did something bad, with Bakugo going towards them and saying that, nah, it's fine. The guy probably understands that you just want to bring the law. Though I'm happy he saved me, but then basically pointing to the sludge villain saying, you might want to take this ice block before it starts melting. With the heroes basically starting to do that. Bakugo then started going, well, away, trying to go towards where Bakugo where he saw All Might and Deku going, thinking that Deku found All Might and he didn't even talk to him about that. But he wasn't able to follow them. All Might basically brought Deku towards the beach, where Deku turned back into his usual self, and All Might turned into his skinny form again, looking a lot better than before, and Deku asking him how he feels, with All Might saying that for a while he felt weak, but he now feels as if he was, well, full of energy. And basically saying that his scar didn't disappear and he still has trouble breathing, but that he feels better. With Deku just saying that's nanomachines for ya. And basically covering his mouth, with All Might asking what he means. With Deku just kind of telling him that, well, what he drank was something with nanomachines inside of it that are specifically made to help, well, either modify or increase the ability of cells. The ones he took precisely were made for healing, but it seems like he wasn't able to actually heal himself. All Might just says that, well, it still helped him, though he doesn't know why he felt weak when he should have still have, 30 to 40 minutes. Deku then said that, well, maybe while the nanomachines were trying to fix some problems, they actually aggraved them for a temporary time, since they had to remove destroyed cells to do so. All Might just told Deku that it's okay, and then asked Deku a specific question. How much would you like to have my quirk? With Deku just suddenly saying, don't need it. All Might being taken aback and saying, wait, but you didn't let me finish. And Deku just saying that, nah, he's fine for now. Basically saying that he did copy this, and basically made a, punch, and basically did just like All Might, and made a wave of air. Massively powerful wave of air. Basically saying that he kind of is pretty strong already. All Might asking how strong that was, with Deku saying that it was actually his, max. With All Might just thinking, this is about 10% of my strength. This is amazing. And if you're asking why I said 10% instead of the 20% that I said previously, Remember, I also said that it was 20% of the normal All Might from the anime and manga. This All Might is 2 times stronger than that. So for this All Might, it's only 10% of the strength, while for normal All Might, it would be 20%. So yeah, keep that in mind. All Might didn't actually say it and just thought that, well, he seems already strong and might get stronger. So basically still asked Deku if he was sure he didn't want it. With Deku just saying that, well, if a quirk could be passed down, wouldn't it be best to pass the quirk to someone who isn't that strong yet but still has a good moral compass? Making All Might just think about it. Basically remembering that Night Eye had told him about Mirio, but then just thought that, yeah, it's true. Mirio is already strong. I should give the quirk to someone who has his heart at the right place, but isn't strong enough to actually show results. And basically tells Deku thank you for the insight, and asks Deku if he truly doesn't need anything. With Deku just taking out a notebook and asking if he could get an autograph, with All Might giving it and basically just laughing because that's all he was asking for. All Might told Deku that in 10 months UA is going to start, and if he can go there, he should. But that for now he's going to go find a successor, and then leaves, with Deku basically not thinking of it too much, going home, and finally one of his parallel minds just realizing, wait, successor? And basically making Deku think, well, I need to get stronger now. Basically thinking that, well, if I want to show good result, and if someone can get All Might's quirk, I need to become stronger. And ponders something and decide that, you know what, I'm going to try a new world. Goes with the Nexus key to the Nexus zone and tries one of the other doors. Basically, he has 3 doors left. The one he chose and went to, he actually arrives, well, that was one where he was in the middle of a forest, with nothing around him. Well, so, basically, he starts to go around, when, about an hour later, something arrives close to him, and actually calls out on him as to what he wants around here. He looks back and sees a goblin wearing clothes on a wolf. He is, in that time I got reincarnated as a slime! Woohoo! So yeah, this is the next world Deku is going to. So, the goblin and the wolf that were there was Gupta and his wolf partner. The time where Deku arrives in this is actually, well, not long before the ogres actually show up. So, this is basically just after, well, just, Shizu is actually still in the village, dying right now. Because Deku eats her, the group of adventurers leaves the next day, and then Rimuru goes to train. Well, to test his new skills. This is the day before Rimuru leaves to test his new skills, and Gobta just finds Deku. a 13-year-old looking boy, basically as if, well, closer to 12-year-old looking boy, but anyway. Basically, Deku just said that he's lost with a few, well, multiple problems. Then Gupta just tells him that, wait, you're lost? With that much magicules? Basically, saying that, well, the entire village was alerted by something appearing out of nowhere. Basically asking him if he wants to come to the village, and basically telling Deku to either come on the Tempest Wolf, or if he's fast enough to just follow. Deku says he's just going to follow while running. Gupta not actually believing it possible, but telling him to try. With Deku literally just being right next to them the entire way there, until arriving. When they arrived, a few other goblins were actually, well, hobgoblin, were actually waiting because they sensed Gupta and their presence arriving. The adventurers were also basically there for if something dangerous was coming, until they actually saw, well, Gupta arriving with a boy running right next to him and the wolf. Basically asking if everything is okay, with Gupta just saying that, yeah, he was just lost. Basically, Rigurd, who was also waiting there, asked, well, basically looked at Deku and asked who he was. Basically presenting himself as Izuku Midoriya. And basically afterward, just saying human. Because, well, he saw that there was some humans, some hobgoblins, well, thinking they're just goblins, wolves. And when he says human, the adventurers, which I keep forgetting their name, but it's basically the blonde girl and the two guys that are completely idiots, basically just asked if he was sure, because those guys tell them that he has a lot of magicules. Deku just kind of trying to think of it, activating telling one of the parallel minds to basically research everything that can be known about it in the Nexus Key, because at one point he found out that some information about the worlds that he can go to exists. It's basically a small amount of knowledge, with basically saying that magicules is basically just amount of power that a being has, and that normally humans either don't have any or has a very little amount of it. Basically, Rimuru, who was still basically talking with Shizu, basically was still there, and that's literally right before the group went to actually go see him. So basically, Deku said he's sure he is human, and sorry for disturbing them, with them basically saying that, well, they don't know what they're going to do with him right now, and that he can come with them to actually go see their master Rimuru. And then Deku follows until they arrive, well, at the tent where they are waiting to see Shizu. When they open it, Deku just sees that small body and near instantly just kind of, well, a naked little body looking a bit girlish, and basically just with everyone looking at it, Deku literally just disappears and covers the body, with Rimuru just kind of still having his moment a bit, with nobody actually reacting to Deku's movement, and more or less just reacting to him having eaten Shizu. After that, Deku is brought out. The group talk with Rimuru. The things happen. And then they basically go out. With Rimuru asking Rigor to come back with the guy that actually covered him. When Rigor enters, with Deku in tow, having his white hair completely out, Rimuru asks Deku who he is. Deku presenting himself as Izuku Midoriya, and basically asking him if he's human or something else. Rimuru just kind of says that he's a slime, with Deku just telling him, well, you looked human to me, with Deku just kind of saying that, well, yeah. Deku understanding to not press the question further, and then just asking him if he can transform. Rimuru saying yes, and then Deku saying that he can do that too, and basically transforms partially, his hair turning about the same colors as Rimuru, and basically modifying his entire body shape to look exactly like him. Rimuru almost freaking out, but keeping calm, with Deku then turning back to what he looked like before, and then just saying that he has only a bit of control over that though. That normally he just changes his hair color to, well, hide. Then Rimuru inside his head as Great Sage, well, to tell him about what he just did, with Great Sage just saying that it looked like transformation magic. With Rimuru scolding Great Sage because that's, well, what he just saw. And then asks Deku directly, why do you have so much magicules? With Great Sage saying that it's not magicules. With Rimuru only trying to hear it in his head, but Deku having actually, well, learned a mind-reading quirk over the 5 years, because yeah, I didn't actually talk about the quirks he gained, but he gained a good amount. Basically heard the voice and asked Rimuru who just said that he didn't have magicules. Rimuru just looking at him like, wait, what? A few people looking at, well, Ranga and Rigurd looking at him a bit weirdly until Deku basically just says, sorry, it activated on its own. With Rimuru just saying that it's actually his unique skill, Great Sage. Deku just said, oh, so it tells you about the world, right? Rimuru saying that, yes, that's what it is. With Deku just saying that, well, that's an interesting power. All he can do is learn any language as the second he either reads it or hears it. With Rimuru kind of just telling him that it's still impressive. And then Rimuru asks a pretty simple question. Are you from Japan? But Deku just kind of, well, Rimuru asks it in just says it in his mind, with Deku reacting instantly, and kind of just saying yes, with Rimuru then telling Ranga and Rigurd to leave. He wants to have a small conversation with him. Rimuru asks him, well, in what year he was brought here, with Deku just saying that he wasn't brought here actually. or summoned, or whatever. Basically, Deku was asked, when were you summoned? Rimuru didn't understand it and asked what he means, with Deku just saying that, well, he came here on his own, of his own free will. Rimuru just asked how, with Deku saying, well, with my quirk. Rimuru not understanding what it is, asking Great Sage, which Deku is still hearing what Rimuru is thinking, basically making him hear that Great Sage doesn't know what it is, and Rimuru then just asking, wait, what year is it on your world? Basically thinking that it must be a different world. Deku saying, well, a few years later, and then saying that quirks are, well, powers that were developed over time genetically. And that, well, about 80% of humans have them. Then just asked if in his Japan, basically understanding that Rimuru isn't from there either, if in his Japan he actually has, well, powers, which Rimuru says no. Rimuru basically gets taught a bit about his world, well, about Deku's world, and then basically Rimuru says that he should go and rest for now. Basically that he has a few stuff to deal with. Which Deku goes. Basically Deku just kind of looks around for a while, talks with some of the people, the next day the adventurers leave. The group, well, the hunter group leaves, Deku sees them leave. Rimuru goes towards the cave without asking more about what Deku's power is, because obviously Great Sage told Rimuru that it wasn't Magicules, because it is made differently. Basically, it was analyzing what it was for a large amount of time during that night, and basically told Rimuru that it's actually something closer to multiple different things, and that Deku's body is filled with, well, 4 types of powers. Well, 4 types of things. First, most likely what he calls quirk, modification to the body itself, that he can actually bring out on the moment noticed. 2 is something that actually feels a bit like Magicules, but is different. His amount is actually great, but it's actually the next thing that's mostly, that's mostly impressive. Basically, Deku is able to use his own life energy, which is in huge amounts, and actually seems to keep rising over time. The last thing is actually extremely small machines that seem to go around his body and actually do kind of the same thing as magics. And weirdly, what people are able to feel from him is the combination of the 3 lasts, basically acting as, well, Magicules. The next day, Deku didn't actually meet up with Rimuru for a while and basically tried to learn what Magicules are by himself using the Nexus Key to maybe try to actually use, well, add them to his body, so making him stronger. And basically, when he tried to absorb Magicules from the air using magic and then to trap it and absorb it, he felt as if his body was trying to break itself, scaring Deku by a huge amount. not understanding yet that, oh yeah, magical creatures that actually have magicules inside of them are actually fully made of magicules. Or having bodies made of cells and magicules completely mixed together, basically making it so that when he tries to absorb it, it's literally him trying to do the same thing as when he absorbed, well, ate the emerald apple. Basically, his cells are being modified, and so it hurts like hell. Later, when the group was attacked and that they used telepathy to contact Rimuru, Deku actually got received the same transmission by accident and basically started going towards where Rimuru was going with the ogres. When Rimuru and Deku arrived, nearly at the same time, they saw the wolves and goblins on the ground, with two still being standing, and then the ogres actually seeing three still standing. Anyway, basically seeing Rimuru and Deku and calling Rimuru a Majin. Deku didn't understand it, but Rimuru got mad and, well, still tried to talk the same way, but still got pushed down. And then, basically, he just kind of said the same thing to Ranga, holding back the pink-haired girl, but then looked at Deku and asked him if he's strong, and then basically told him to just protect the others. Deku obliged, and basically decided to just look at the fight. Ranga tried to stop, well, she's not named yet, so I won't call her by her name yet. But yeah, basically Rimuru doing the same thing, basically paralyzing one of them, having the ogre girl with purple hair basically caught in some webs, and the armor on his arm breaking a sword and then punching one of them out cold. After that, you basically have the exact same fight until at one point, well, basically they return, where I'm going to stop it before the party, because I don't have any more time actually. But yeah, in the next part I'm going to continue a bit of this in this world, with Deku actually being in the fight with the basically being in the fight with the I just have the word pig in mind, but that's not it. You still understand what I mean, though. But yeah, basically, he's going to be in that fight. So, yeah. Hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. Natsu, out.